2020 is here, and as we wait for the polls to close in Iowa and Siouxland states, we're joined by Journal political reporter Bret Hayworth to talk through what he expects tonight. Bret, what are the biggest things you're keeping your eye on this 2020 election night?
Sure. Well, of course, a lot of people are going to be interested in the national election. So in Iowa, we're going to see whether Donald Trump will hold on to Iowa the way he did in 2016, or if Joe Biden can take the state. It had been fairly tightly polled for as a tight contest recently, and now there's some indications that Trump is pulling away. So I think it'll be somewhat narrow, but perhaps Trump is going to win. Obviously, that's a big one. More for our area, Northwest Iowa, the Iowa 4th Congressional District seat is up this evening, and that's between Randy Feenstra, who is the Republican state senator from Hull, and Steve King, I'm sorry, not Steve King, J.D. Scholten, who is a Democrat from Sioux City. And where I was getting to is that is the seat that's now held by Steve King, who Feenstra defeated in the June primary. He defeated him by about 10%. So that's a very groundbreaking thing that happened here for us politically, as Steve King, after 18 years, will no longer be serving Northwest Iowa in the old 4th District and in the more recent 5th District here. So Feenstra has, in polls that we've seen Feenstra has had leads of as low as 5% and on up to 20% with a variety of internal polls and then public polls. So, and then another factor in that race is that Scholten is by far the money fundraising leader, and he's been the fundraising leader throughout for many quarters on end. The district absolutely skews Republican. It's of the 4 congressional districts in Iowa, it is easily the most Republican. There's an advantage of about 70,000 more Republicans over Democrats. So for Scholten to win, he'd have to pull in some Republicans, some disaffected Republicans, and get a lot of independents.
So federal races key in Siouxland, also state and local races important in the Iowa legislature, and also at the Woodbury County level elections there as well tonight.
Right, we have just all that gamut, as you just said, and obviously not for our coverage here at the Journal. It's not just Iowa, but it's also Nebraska and South Dakota, and there's congressional races in all 3 states. There's Senate races in all 3 states, with Republicans trying to hold on to U.S. Senate seats. Ben Sass in Nebraska, Mike Rounds in South Dakota, and then Joni Ernst, which is a big one here in Iowa, where she's trying to. She's won 1 term, so she's ending her first 6 years and trying to hold off Democrat Teresa Greenfield, and that's a very highly watched race as well. That could play into how the U.S. Senate, the control of the Senate, which is by a few for Republicans now, whether it could get into like a 50-50 tie sort of situation. The Joni Ernst Greenfield race will play heavily in that.
A couple of contested state legislative seats based in Sioux City. Democrats seeking to hold both, but one possible winner tonight for Democrats is a state representative from many years ago who's seeking a return to the State House in Des Moines tonight.
Right, that would be Steve Hansen. He has been for I guess almost 2 decades now. He's been the director of the Sioux City Public Library, so he's a very well-known person. He was well known as a state legislator for I think 16 or 18 years previous to that, going back into the 1980s. And he's been on the legislature, I believe, since 2002 and looking to return. And he runs in a district that is more favorable to Democrats. So the presumption is that it's possible that he would win that. If not, it would be an upset.
And in Woodbury County, currently it's Republican control in the Board of Supervisors, and the auditor's office is controlled by the Democrat Pat Gill, and party control of both of those jurisdictions is on the ballot tonight.
Right. There's 3 county supervisor races where we have Jeremy Taylor is seeking. He's a Republican who was a former county supervisor who is now running in a different district to get back on the board. He's running against, I cannot believe I'm drawing a blank on that. Jeremy Taylor is running against Marty Potabom, who is, the interesting dynamic there is that he's the incumbent. So while Jeremy Taylor was formerly in a different district and resigned due to some residency issues, he's now running against an incumbent, Marty Potabom, who is a Democrat. So that's considered the heavyweight of the 3 races. You also have Keith Raddick, who's an incumbent one of the other districts for Woodbury County, and he is running against a well-known former Sioux City Police detective, McCormick, and then the other race would be Rocky DeWitt, who is a Republican from Lawton, who is the incumbent. He's a one-term incumbent Republican, and he's running against Patty Erickson Putman, who is a former county employee who has some name recognition as well from the many years that she worked for the county.
So Brett, getting closer to poll closes on election night, we'll have coverage throughout at SiouxCityJournal.com, and you'll be on Twitter as well. Where can readers find your tweets throughout the night?
I'm SCJ. We always have that tag leaning into our names. SCJ Bret H. SCJ BRETH, and I'll try to flood Twitter as much as I can in amongst writing all the stories and the coverage that we and our broad team are doing here tonight.
Thank you, Brett.